Hey everybody, this is Mr. Buyer from the past. Uh, it's Saturday. I'm in Springfield, Illinois with my girlfriend Katie. Say hi.
Hi.
And we were walking through. We saw this old building, and we saw that they had tours, and I didn't think there was anything inside really. This is where Abraham Lincoln did a lot of his work, and I'll show you the building here in a little bit. But this is where he did a lot of his work. This is where the Senate chamber was. This is where his little Supreme Court was. This is where he held a lot of meetings during the Civil War. And it being Women's History Month, I actually wanted to share something with you. There's some very interesting tidbits about some of the most influential and important women in the Civil War and how they may have even turned the tides. Katie, go ahead and show them the building. Isn't that fantastic? Back on me. More to come. Back to you, Buyer from the future. Hey everybody, Buyer from, well, to the last guy, Buyer from the distant future. To you guys, Buyer from the not so distant past. It's 2:50 in the morning, and I'm recording this because I didn't do anything for Marvelous Monday. This is fun. I always get to do something interesting for you guys. So, like Buyer from the past said, the only way to get in and see what I want to show you guys is to go into the state capitol building. The only way to go into the state capitol building is to walk up the steps, grab the overly large door. Not sure if you're supposed to go in or not. Go in anyway. Be spooked by the tour guide to your right, who I think has been dead for 120 years. Katie, how dead was this woman?
Super dead.
She was super dead. This woman, anyway, not important. I think that she's part of the exhibit. Anyway, she takes your temperature. You're not sure how close you're supposed to get to her because she's stepping back every time you step forward. You're like, dude, my temperature. Anyway, not important. We're going to go ahead and go inside so I can show you guys what I found. Hey guys, Buyer from the past here again. I'm here inside the old state capitol building, and this is the reason I came here at all. This is the Springfield Ladies Soldiers Aid Society. Since we're talking about women in history this month, I wanted to show everyone else what I'm seeing firsthand. This audio might sound a little weird because this is a dub over. I wanted to be respectful to the history that I was surrounded by, so excuse this change in audio quality for a moment. These women, during the Civil War, dedicated their time to making food, clothing, sleeping bags, and even playing cards. Anything to help in the war effort. This was unheard of at the time, and though they were helping the men, it wouldn't be until World War I that women got to be soldiers themselves. This is the first time a group of women were government-sponsored aid distributors. And now you'll see my ADHD self get distracted, and I want to show you guys the building I'm in, because I'm 12 years old and forget things easily, but I do want to get back to what's at hand here. There's Katie again. Hi, Katie. Okay, so now that my squirrel brain has gotten refocused, I can continue for just a moment. Abraham Lincoln himself attributed a large part of the North's win to these women, but that's unusual because they were originally a group of Confederate sympathizers. Yeah, they were playing for the other team at first. Mr. Buyer from the future, take it from here. Hey, Buyer from the past, thank you for that. This is Buyer from your future, but my kids' past, because I'm in the past. The real Buyer's watching this in the Zoom call. It's complicated. So, like I said in here, these women were actually government-sponsored to give aid during the war effort. And you would think that they were giving aid to the North. They were not. They were Confederate sympathizers. They were playing for the other team for a while. And they were doing this right across the hall from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was in the state capitol building during the Civil War because if he was in the White House, you could assume very quickly that the target would become the White House. And if you knock that off the map, you knock the president off the map, and that's the end of the Civil War. So Lincoln played it safe. He stayed at this old state capitol building. Back then, this was an old building. So he really played it safe here. These women were delivering aid to Confederate soldiers. You saw on the bottom of one of the boots, if you go back and watch the video again, and I'll drop a link in the chat, if you go back and watch the video again, there's on the bottom of the boots it says English Card Trading Company. These women were actually working with trade partners like England and France They were government sponsored. They had the money to move this weight around. They really pushed product. And it was going towards the Confederacy of all people. Abraham Lincoln wanted people to come back together at the end of the war. It was never his intention to end with two separate countries. He didn't want the Union and he didn't want the Confederacy. He wanted the whole thing together. And that was always his plan. So he figured maybe if we send aid to the Confederacy and let these women do what they want to do, maybe that'll just be for the best. Now, what caused these women to jump ship? Because by the end of the war, they switched teams. They started sending aid to the North. Um, as you guys know by now, Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves. That's a very general statement, and I don't want to make that and not address it. But these women were Confederate supporters, sympathizers. They were supporters of the Confederacy, of a government that was built on slavery, of an economy that was built on slavery. And when Lincoln revealed his plan to emancipate the slaves, they jumped ship and they said, this is way better. We're going to support the North. So how could people who supported a government and a economic structure built on slavery jump ship when the conversation turned to freeing slaves? This is one of the big talking points that a lot of people bring up when they talk about if Lincoln was really an abolitionist, was really somebody who supported the freeing of slaves. I don't think I need to go too in depth without saying, like, Harriet Tubman was an abolitionist. Harriet Tubman really went out there and freed slaves. And Lincoln signed a piece of paper, and did he free all the slaves? He freed some of the slaves in the middle states because there were laws against freeing the ones in the free states. Are there slaves in the free states? Yes, it's very complicated. You'll learn about that in my brother's social studies class next year and in high school. So think back to me whenever you hear that. But Lincoln said himself, without these women, the tide of war may not have changed, but the unification of the two sides would not have been the same. These women doing this allowed him to say, from our state capital, from Springfield, Illinois, 2-hour drive from here, our country showed compassion to both sides, and we were able to come back together. So I just want to thank the Springfield Ladies Soldiers Aid Union. Fantastic story. I just love being able to experience that history and bring it to you guys. So, Buyer from the present, back to you.